And my friend looks at me, and he said these words. He said, "It sure has gotten quiet outside."
Oh,
And within 5 to 10 seconds of him saying, "It sure has gotten quiet outside," and it was a dark night too, but within just a few seconds, the best way I can describe it is it sounded like a bomb hit the water, dropped from a high altitude. There's no way to describe the noise that whatever hit the water made. It was just undescribable. We didn't get up. We were sitting down. We did not get up. We landed on our feet, both of us just shaking. And of course, he's cursing. He's saying, "What was that? What was that?" And I said, I don't know." And he grabbed his flashlight, and his flashlight. I say in my book, the Bigfoot Finders, in our book, that it was slightly weaker than two elderly fireflies rubbing their butts together. It was one of those old D-cell flashlights, and it had, it was D-battery flashlights, and you had to shake it to get it to work. And this thing had hit the water at the far end of the gravel bar, which was the water was up. It had rained, and so the water was probably up a foot higher than normal. And so this thing was probably 40 feet from our fire, and our fire probably gave off 30 feet worth of light, 25 to 30 feet worth of light. And so we started to make our way. I was looking over his shoulder. He was leading the charge. And we started to make our way to see what had hit the water, because it was obvious it hit the water upstream from us and very close to the gravel bar. Well, when we got up close to that end, my friend starts to say, he says, "Those are eyes. My God, those are eyes. Those are eyes." And we're just looking at this thing, and there's these two, no exaggeration, the size of silver dollars. I mean, massive, massive, solid red eyes that were almost self-illuminating, and they were just glaring. He was putting his flashlight on it, but I told you how weak that was. He was leaned out toward it. It was maybe another 25 feet out in the water, and he was holding it. He was shaking already. And then he starts to say, "It's a monster. It's a monster." Now, bear in mind, Bigfoot never clicked with me at that point. We didn't have the internet. I didn't know they had red eyes. I didn't know they didn't get in the water. When he started saying monster, I'm like, "What's he talking about? The Loch Ness monster? This place isn't big enough for that." And so I had no idea. I was not brave. I was in denial. I was just in total denial. And he just kept saying, "It's a monster. It's a monster." And this thing, we watched it for 3 minutes, and it's just sitting there looking at us, and it gets where we can see the silhouette of the head. And I saw you motion about the one earlier. This thing, if that one earlier had a head, if that one earlier was 7 feet tall, head comparison to head comparison, this thing's head was like that. It was very, very pointed on the top. I mean, it looked almost, but all we could see was the silhouette and these huge red eyes. And it literally looked like, from where I was at, that probably it was just from the lips up that was out of the water. So this thing, just its nose and its top lip were out of the water, and we're seeing these huge eyes. And then it tilts its head. I can't to the right or left first, but it tilts its head in one direction, just like that. And it's looking at us. It's like it's examining us, like it's trying to figure out what we are. And it straightens his head back up. And my buddy's just freaking out. And he's braver than me. I'm just great. I'm just in denial. I just can't even wrap my brain around it. And then it tilts its head over to the other way, and it's looking straight. It's just looking straight at us the whole time. And he just keeps saying, "It's a monster. It's a blank, blank monster." And I'm like, "Man, it's not a monster. It can't be." I knew cows came down to get water there, and I was just trying to give some sort of rational answer to calm him down. And anyhow, so we sit there and watch it. We don't move. We're hardly even breathing, man. And the next thing you know, I mean, we watched it for probably 3 solid minutes, no exaggeration. I mean, I know every second feels like a lifetime when you're this close, but we didn't really understand. He knew. If he would have said Bigfoot, I'd have probably just crawled up on the gravel bar and just started crying and shivering. But I never made the connection until later that it was a Sasquatch. I just knew it had these enormous red eyes, this big head. So the next thing that happens after about 3 minutes or so of watching it is it pushes out more toward the center of the river. but still pretty close to the gravel bar. And I know because of the angle that my fishing line went down. I fished that place before. The river was up about a foot. I knew it was around 7 or so feet, maybe 7, 8 feet deep there right now. And this thing pushes out to that part of the river. And then it starts to go down the river in a total zigzag pattern, super fast, super outrunning the current. It's just shoot, 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 just zigzagging down. And it never takes its eyes off us. We're following it downstream, walking at a fast pace, and this thing's outpacing us in the water. But it looks almost like we would if we were in a 3 foot deep or 3.5 foot deep swimming pool and we were using our feet to propel us. That's what it reminded me of. And it stopped right in front of our fire, stopped right in front of the campfire. And at that point, we're just both speechless. And we sit there and look at it. It does the head tilt thing again, like it's trying to figure us out. And then my buddy looks at me and he says, grab my shotgun. Because we had totally forgotten we had a shotgun. We were just freaking out, man. We had forgotten about the shotgun. I grabbed his shotgun. It's a 12 gauge double, I think it's a double barrel. And I remember it had double aught buck because he told me what he had with him. And he said, hold this light. He hands me the light and I'm just shaking. I couldn't even hardly hold the light on the thing. These huge eyes. The very second he pulled the gun up to his shoulder, man, this thing goes blah, 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 and just vanished. It was gone. It left these big, massive bubbles, probably 6, 7, 8 big bubbles. I mean, huge. You could see them coming up because it was closer. It was maybe 20 feet out, maybe 25 or 30 feet from our fire. We got some firelight. Our eyes had adjusted. We had the flashlight on it. You could see it, and you could see these bubbles coming up. And then everything just went totally silent. And we were just like, our jaws were on the ground, man. We didn't know what to do. We were looking for it. And it's probably 10 minutes went by, and my friend says, man, it's got to come up for air. It's got to come up for air. And I just remember thinking, well, if it's a monster, if it's like the Loch Ness Monster, why does it have to come up for air? I mean, I didn't get it just never registered with me. And he said, it's got to come up for air. And then finally we talked, and he said, we're going to take shifts tonight, and we're going to watch for this thing to make sure it doesn't come out of the water and kill us. And he said, that thing could kill us if it wanted to. And I said, I don't know what it was, but I said, I'm going to sleep. I'm not taking a shift. And I always felt bad about that, but I didn't know. You just can't wrap your brain around this sort of thing. Mm-hmm. I wasn't fearless. I was in total denial. I thought maybe a cow had drowned in the water, and I didn't know what had happened. And so the next morning I get up, and he's sitting there, and he's still got the fire going really good. And he's got his shotgun across his shoulder. He's all wild-eyed, and the only thing we ever said about it again is he said, it never came up for air. And now I'm not saying it didn't. I know now they can go underwater a long ways, and, probably it went around the corner somewhere and just swam underwater. I don't know. But we never saw it come up for air. We never heard it come up for air. We never heard another peak. And my friend sat up all night. We, instead of fishing the weekend, we packed up, went home, never said another word about it, never spoke another word. And he moved away within probably a few months of that. I seldom saw him. And he took his own life within 2 years of that event.